MIDDLEKAUFF! Hey! Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Haberman and Middlecoff podcast. Guy Haberman, John Middlecoff. It is Wednesday afternoon. Kyle Shanahan and Trey Lance just spoke. And we've got Tito's on deck. We got a bunch of DraftKings picks to make. We got our lock of the week back. We did a lot of talking about the lock of the week, John. We haven't nailed down the amount that we're going to start off with, so we can hash that out.
$7,000.
$7,000 each, and $14,000 per game. So that lock is it better be locky. Very locky.
One philosophy I'd say before we dive into the podcast, because I did it the other night. When I was in Nashville, the games were starting. I'm like, I got to gamble a little bit. So I just threw $400 in there. Obviously, I win the Cincinnati game. Boom, I have $800. Then I was like, rooting for a guy at Florida State, like value. LSU's in shambles. I'm just going to bet. I don't have a great feel. I wasn't confident. Obviously, LSU major favorite, 4-point favorite, fucking at home. I mean, in the Superdome. But I was like, okay, I'll do it. And then all of a sudden, I had $400. Win that game, I have $1,200. Monday night comes around. It's kind of slow, right? The end of Labor Day. I'm like, well, there's a game on. I felt obligated to gamble. I'm like, well, I don't know anything about Georgia Tech. Cincinnati, their quarterback might, and I bet on it. And I bet on the first half. And I obviously lost because Georgia Tech kicked the field goal.
Cover.
Yeah, and I realized, why am I betting on? One thing I'm going to try not to do, if I don't have a feel, we don't like it, you don't just have to gamble. Just bet on what you like. Or if something like, in my gut, I feel value here, do it, like Florida State. But don't, if you got a little cash, because I get this a lot in my DMs, like, hey, just got an extra $100 in my account. Do you like anything? Well, if you don't like anything, it's cool with just waiting a day.
I always feel obligated to answer that with something, though,
Me too.
It's obligated to tell people, all right, here's a game. I don't love it, but just here's a game if you want to bet something.
That's why, unless you were super fired up on, and you're going to be wrong sometimes, it's fucking gambling, just take a deep breath and wait till the next late. Because I think it happens a lot on the standalone games. Like, I need action on the Monday night game. Well, sure. I wouldn't recommend
Thursday night, Rams-Bills.
But I mean, that to me is a little easier of a game, I would say, the gamble than the game on Monday night when it's like Seattle, Denver. It's just, but you're gonna want to bet against someone, but there's a lot of unknowns. Like, I could see Seattle having a crazy upset. Could also see Denver winning by 20. At least if you bet on a side going into the Rams-Bills game, whatever side you bet on, you feel pretty good going into the game. Like, if you like the Bills, you like the Bills. Feel pretty good. If you like the Rams, I mean, they're just defending champs.
One is, I would feel if I bet the Bills and lost, I'd be a little annoyed because I'm like, it's just, I got the Rams at home getting points. Like, that just seems like an easy bet. If I make that bet and lose, I can live with making that bet and losing. But if you think the Bills are going to win, like, all of the world, I don't know if you saw somebody posted, like, I don't know if it was the NFL Network's people or like who's pick. It's like 20 people picking the Bills to win the championship. Everyone's picking the Bills. The Bills are being picked as much as anyone's ever been picked to start a season. I think.
Feels like they're being considered like they're Alabama or something of the NFL.
Like they're on a mission. They got they lost their offensive coordinator, and yeah, they're really good, but it's not like they've it's not like they've done it before and almost got there and came up short. Now they're about to do it again, climb the mountain. Like, they haven't got to the last checkpoint atop Mount Everest.
Have they been past the second round of the playoffs with this crew?
Last year's game was not the AFC Championship game, so no.
And the previous year was Chiefs versus the Bucks, but I don't know who the Chiefs played, but I don't think it was them.
Again, might be them. They might be fine. As long as Ken Dorsey's a great play caller, John, they're in great shape.
Yeah, 49er,
Ken Dorsey. Somebody on the chat said, and this is good memory, said, because you said don't bet things you don't love. I lost the comment, but it said don't bet on college games. I think last year when we were doing our lock of the week, did we avoid college games for a while? I feel like we did avoid college games for a while.
We just wrote our philosophy of taking a playoff team versus a team we thought was a potential top 5 draft pick.
Yeah,
that was just I think our tried and true philosophy. We bet against the Giants like 3 straight weeks and won. I think if we stick to that philosophy. Because I think college, you can overthink.
Sure.
I think it's an easy sport to overthink, and you don't have quite the information.
And the numbers can be humongous.
The numbers can be massive.
Yeah.
I mean, you just see, like, I would say that Washington State, let's use this example, is viewed as like a credible program, and they're going to go to a bowl game. They're playing Wisconsin, who probably, when the dust settles, will be multiple loss team. And they are almost a 20-point favorite. Like the equivalent in the NFL of a team that's going to go like 9-8 versus a 13-win team. That spread is like 7 or 6, right?
Yeah.
Hell, maybe 5.
It's what, honestly, I liked Wisconsin in that game because I thought in my head, like, all right, this will be 13.5. I'll pick Wisconsin to cover, but it's not. It's 17.5 points. Although I did text a buddy who did some hashtag film study on Wisconsin, and he said they might have the best backfield in America, was his assessment. So,
yeah,
and a really good and a reloaded defense was the quote I got. So I did not watch Wisconsin. I honestly couldn't tell you who they played last week. Do you remember? Did you see Wisconsin last week?
No.
I can check.
I also, here's the other thing. I think you feel better, like, for example, this weekend, taking Houston +7 against Indy than you do these random teams like +20 against Wisconsin or +20 against Auburn. Yeah.
Alabama's 20 against Texas.
Would you touch Texas +20?
No.
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 What I'm saying. San Jose State plus whatever against Auburn.
Yeah,
you know,
like
all
22,
these,
or it might even be bigger than that.
Yeah, I don't touch those. We did one time last year, and it turns out it was Ole Miss.
It was Ole Miss. Yeah. It was a lot of points too.
Well, they had the best year in the history of the program.
Yeah. We took Alabama to cover against them. Is that what it was?
Yeah, and it was clear they were just going touchdown for touchdown.
All right, John, before we go any further, let's tell the people about what you drink when you're having a good time. When the bets are going good or the bets are going bad, whenever you want to have a good hang, whether with other people or just by yourself, you go to Tito's. Tito's Handmade Vodka. They sponsor this podcast. We're so always so thrilled to be partners with Tito's. And it is something that a lot of you people are already turned on to. But if you're not turned on to Tito's, baby, get turned on. Tito's Handmade Vodka.
We had a lot of people, and really over the last couple of weeks, they've tweeted at us, they've Instagrammed at us of their fantasy football drafts and drinking John Daly's, drinking Tito's with soda. A lot of fantasy football drafts include handles of booze. It's not just like one, just a normal bottle, a handle, which we like. We get very, very excited when you send us a picture of a handle of booze. I love this during the season, like Friday with the boys. It's like 7 a.m. handle of Tito's. Like that gets my juices flowing.
Yeah, here we go. Somebody
can you
of Paul? I should have grabbed these pictures, but there's one from Paul, fantasy football draft. Here's another one from Endo playing golf in Kauai, John, with his
that made me
little
jealous.
Tito's right there.
That was good.
And the ocean in the background.
Oh shit.
So there was a couple. It's simple, it's smooth, every sip delicious. Tito beverage, the man himself, all the way back to 95. He's had a longer run of dominance than Nick Saban. Unanimous judge choice double gold medals at the World Spirits Competition, best vodka tonic, and it's still made on the same land where he all started in Austin, Texas. Recipes, videos, and more, titosvodka.com. Yes, John, sorry.
Didn't our guy Tito Beveridge attend the University of Texas, Austin guy? So I mean, boom. Yep. Well, I know it's an early kickoff, 11 a.m., but would you imagine there are going to be some Tito's drank before Roll Tide kicks off?
Yeah, 11 a.m. there, which that's a 9 a.m. game for us on the West Coast if you're out on the West Coast. But distilled and bottled in Austin, Texas, 40% alcohol by volume, namely 80 proof, crafted to be savored responsibly. Maybe a Tito's and peach tea.
I don't think it's very often that Texas and Oklahoma played the 11 kickoff, do they?
The 11 local?
Well, yeah. I mean, the central
when they're on
kickoff,
Big Noon would be the time, really.
And I guess they would do it for the Red Rival. There's always Big Noon game.
Yeah.
Because Klatt's always calling that.
Yeah. So, I mean, Ohio State did it a lot last year for the Big Noon kickoff.
But they get that extra hour. There is to me a difference between noon and 11. Ohio State is
Eastern
that's true. Time zone.
That's true. Yeah. John, also, since we mentioned it, we might as well just dive. Is it time for our lock of the week? Should we just do our lock of the week now?
Let's just do it now.
All right. The formula, here's what you do. You get on the app, you go to DraftKings, you put in the code HAM, the official sports betting partner of the NFL. New customers, you bet $5, you get $200 in free bets instantly, $200 in free bets instantly when you just bet $5. That's incredible. I'm scrolling through the app right now as we speak.
guy. And as an added bonus for week 1, God, it's week 1. It's finally here. We waited all year long, and it's here. Everyone can experience the thrill in DraftKings early win promotion. Think how great this is, guy. It's simple. Bet on any NFL team to win. If your team leads by 10 points at any time during the game, you get paid instantly, even if the team loses. Up 10, immediate payout for you. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook now and use the promo code HAM, $200 in free bets instantly when you place a $5 bet this Sunday. That's code HAM only at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details.
All right, so what is our pick going to be? We thought long and hard about this, but our lock of the week. What are we putting on it? What did we do last year? $300 each?
Yeah, let's go 500.
500. So we'll start the pot with $500 in. And our pick is going to be.
I think we're going to stick with the strategy. We're going to take a playoff team versus a team we think is going to be terrible. And I know a lot of people have said, the weather, the rain. We're not going to budge. We're not going to let that get into our head. We're going to take the Niners -7 at the Chicago Bears. And our philosophy is simple. Playoff team versus a team that, I don't know about you, I fully expect them to be drafting in the top 5.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of reasons not to pick the Niners. If you like, from a fundamental reason, right? This is a road favorite, 7 points. It's the largest line in the NFL at this point this week. And we got almost burned on it last week, week 1. Remember, we took them against the Lions, and the Lions awoke from the dead for a late fourth quarter push, whatever that score is. I don't know if you can.
I'm looking it up right now. We got 41-33.
Yeah.
The Lions scored 16 points in the fourth quarter. So,
yeah. So that one hurt. That one hurt. This is less points.
You know what the halftime score was, guy? 31-10.
Yeah, we were feeling ourselves. So I don't know if you saw Justin Fields' quote. He said, I'm not going to hold my left tackle. I'm not going to expect my left tackle to never get beat by Nick Bosa this week. I'm going to be real.
That's what he said about Alex Leatherwood?
Not Alex Leatherwood, whoever his other guy is. And, here's the thing, like Uberflus, 3 top 10 defenses in the last 4 years in Indy. I think Uberflus might actually be a pretty good coach for them. But if this is what we think it is, which is one of the most talented rosters in the NFL, a true Super Bowl contender, despite the line, we talked about it last week, would have been great to get it at 6.5, despite the weather. Here's something else on the weather. The Bears have put in Uberflus, which is, I'm kind of pro Uberflus, but here's a red flag. Is he overly obsessed with the details, or is this just a detail-oriented thing that a great coach would do, John? He made them replace their turf. They have switched from Kentucky bluegrass, which is what they had in the preseason, to Bermuda, a Bermuda strain called Tahoma 31.
Guys, is this the Honda Classic we're talking about here?
Tahoma 31. 9 of the 16 teams in the NFL that have natural grass use Bermuda. Only 4 have Kentucky bluegrass. And why this might benefit the 49ers is this grass is supposed to be better in winter. It's supposed to be better in kind of the sloppier conditions.
Well, Florida has Bermuda.
Florida has Bermuda. Okay. Well, the preseason apparently was a mess at Soldier Field. And so Uberflus said, enough with this. We're replacing the grass. We're putting in Tahoma 31, which actually sounds like a play call or a Peyton Manning's production company.
Or a strain of weed or something.
Or a strain of weed or something. Yeah, there will be something soon. But so maybe that benefits. Now, it's brand new, so no one's really played on it yet. So we'll see. It's supposed to be something that takes very quickly, and you can plan it quickly. But just something to be aware of. Hopefully, if there's supposed to be maybe some showers Saturday night, Sunday morning, maybe the field can handle that.
I would say that, a lot of people push back on the turf just around the league and just in general, right? I think Soldier Field is very old school. It's always been grass, has been widely considered the biggest joke turf in the ground. So I'm not giving Uberflus that much credit because I think a lot of people, the knock on the Bears have always been they are for a big franchise with, I'm sure their fan base, medium income is right there with the Niners and like the Giants. And honestly, it might be way higher than the Giants because the Giants have so many fans. That number's probably lower. But they are cheap. And that field sucked. I remember when I was with the Eagles, we were like rolling going in there to play them, and Michael Vick could not keep his footing. And that's just, it's been like that for forever. So I give them, I mean, credit for having enough juice to like get them to do it. But like, I think every human being that's ever played there, whether it be a coach, a player, has been like, this field's a joke. You know,
Here's your. You sent me this yesterday. You saw this cost to attend an NFL game. The Bears, to your point, top 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Ninth most expensive cost of 4 tickets. Niners coming in at number 1, $900 for a family of 4. Bucks, Chiefs, Raiders, Cowboys in your top 4. Rams, Eagles, Texans, Bears, Pats.
Think about that. If you are,
I'm sorry, $1,000.
you wanted to take like, you know, a brother and your kid and his kid, cost you $1,000 cheapest ticket. That means you're sitting in at the top of Levi State. That's insane.
1,000 is 4 tickets plus parking plus beers plus soda plus hot dogs. But promo code HAM, try that.
Come on, Guido.
Promo code HAM.
Guido's like cha-ching.
So that's what we're going with. At other games we considered, we can mention one game that stood out to me as a game that was almost too obvious the other way. I would not bet this game, but Giants +6 was actually a game that stood out to me as a game of interest. Raiders +4 would not be shocked, obviously, if the Chargers win, so I couldn't make that a lock, and that's not part of our formula. 2 good teams, we think, but that was one. How about you? A couple other games that stood out to you?
Yeah, I mean, to me, just underdogs week 1 at home. I mean, I actually think the Houston and the Lions, either team could get to like 7-9 or 7-10 and be feisty. +7 against the Colts. Like, I mean, Matt Ryan's never played. Matt Ryan's been losing a lot, like a lot. Now, this team's a lot better in Atlanta, but +7 at home. And the Lions +4 at home against the Eagles. I like the Eagles this year, but holy shit. I mean, they're just going to come out and just kick everyone's ass on the road. Like,
yeah,
we'll see. I mean, I saw the Lions last year. They were much worse, and they played the 49ers within 8 points, right? So, and then the Niners the next week go and beat the Eagles. I know last year is kind of irrelevant to now, but my point is these first week games, I don't know. I mean, I like Houston and Lions. Like, I'm going to put my own money on those 2 games this week for sure. We're getting points. And that's 7 points for the Texans. That's a lot of points week 1 for a team that I don't think anyone is going to be that shocked if they win 6 or 7 games. Doesn't mean the Falcons won 7 games last year, and we all agreed they sucked. You know, 7 points week 1. That to me seems pretty high, guy.
Yeah, I agree. I think anytime you get bad teams that were bad last year, and you get these week 1 lines where they get a lot of points, I think both of those games kind of fit the bill, right? Teams that were bad last year, who people just kind of assume early on they're going to be bad again. I'll tell you the other one.
Patriots, Miami.
Well, there's that. No, I was going to say Steelers. I think they're 6.5 right now with the Bengals. They got their ass kicked twice last year by Cincinnati. Definitely they got their ass kicked once. They lost twice to Cincinnati. And as bad as their quarterback situation might be, I don't know, man.
Give me what's the line there?
6.5. 6.5.
Where's the game?
Cincy. Steelers getting 6.5.
It's a lot of points for a team that I think most people think that Steelers defense is going to be pretty good.
So, you know, here's one other one. I don't know. I wouldn't bet this one because they both suck. Jags are getting. Actually, it's now 2.5. It was 4 at Washington. I kind of like the Jags. Trevor Lawrence beat Carson Wentz last year at the end of the season.
True. Momentum.
On the chat, Gigi says Houston +7 is money. He loves your pick there, John. Jay says Niners will be up 21 in the 4th. Do you throw Jimmy in? That's not a gambling question, but that is a good question.
That is a good question.
To protect Trey, John, to protect Trey. Robert says, I got the under on Bills-Rams. Bills-Rams. What is the over-under on Bills-Rams?
To me, as a gambler, betting the over-unders is not taking the under, even though it historically I think is a pretty good bet, is not fun. Rooting for punts. I mean, it's not a fun way to watch the game.
Unless you watch in Iowa.
Well, to me, unless you're a professional gambler, like if you have like a job and you gamble because you like to gamble, rooting for punts, I don't know. To me, it's always felt weird. The NBA, back when I used to bet the NBA, betting for unders and rooting for misses sucks.
Over under 52 on that game, by the way.
That is a lot of points. Actually, I don't hate that bet.
Yeah. All right, John, let's get to the news of the day on Wednesday, which is that George Kittle missed 49ers practice today and is day-to-day, Kyle Shanahan says, with a groin injury. Did not practice Wednesday. Kyle Shanahan is not sure if he'll practice Thursday. This is something that popped up on Monday, and Shanahan said he was hoping that Kittle would be better by today. This means that he's not sure if George Kittle's going to play Sunday, which, you know, again, in a game that could be a little wet, bad footing, blah, blah, blah. A groin injury is not an ideal injury to have well, hell, in an NFL game. But so Kittle may not play on Sunday is the way you have to read that right now.
Yeah, to me, this is a moment that reflects him more than it does this individual week and this individual game. Like, one running narrative's the wrong word. One running fact with this guy. Some of it has been out of his control. Jimmy once sent him up in the air to get destroyed by Buda Baker in his fucking knee. He was lucky it didn't get shattered. So I'm not putting it all on George, but part of the way George plays in the open field, he's been hurt a lot. This is an injury. Who knows how he got it? Just walk through in practice. I mean, it could happen. I mean, he's a tightly wound, a pretty elite athlete. This is not ideal though. I mean, it's one of those things that, when you say, strains and, hammies, groins, those type injuries are ones that last. I would say, like, if he had a broken finger or whatever, at least there was like an end date, or a broken foot. He's out 3 weeks. He'll be healthy. There is some finality to it. This is one of those, like, is this one lingering all month? Do they have to sit him and then hopefully next week's better and then he comes back? Remember Greenlaw last year, I think, had the hammy. And he waited. They even gave him an extra in that first game. He was like, God, this guy's flying around. And then he had that moment where it kind of yanks again. And it's just one thing with George. Absolutely love the player, love the talent. And you just have to question, like, how durable is the guy? It's just a reality with him right now as a player. Right.
Yeah. Especially given that this is a soft muscle. Like, it's one thing to get hurt on the play that Garoppolo got him hurt on.
Don't blame George at all.
Right. Like, that's not, to me, a reflection of quote unquote injury prone or not. And we'll see if he has to play through it, whatever. The fact is, what do coaches say? Like, gentlemen, day one of football, you're never going to be healthier than you are today. Right. Well, you don't love a guy not being 100% before week one even starts, which is the case with Kittle. So either A, he's playing through a groin injury, or B, he's got to sit. And keep in mind with Jimmy Ward, like, they're not going to rush him back. Same deal, right? Hamstring. We don't want to rush him back and make it.
Jimmy could be gone till like Halloween.
Yeah. I mean, I know this is not in that category, but the point is, like, with those injuries, you can't really screw around too much. You rely on Kittle to be explosive in the pass game and to be an anchor blocking with an offensive line that this is an offensive line right now that looks like they need George Kittle to help.
Yeah, so, I mean, to me,
and also, John, McGlinchey's been kind of in and out of practice over the last, over this preseason.
I had him written down to just mention, like, kind of a big year and big moment. Like, is McGlinchey, are we 100% sure he's starting on Sunday? I mean, I think he is, but I just pulled up George Kittle stats. 19, the Super Bowl year, was a 16-game season. He missed multiple games. 2020, obviously, he missed a ton. He missed half the season, 8. Last year, 14, in theory, doesn't look as bad, but it's a 17-game season, so that's 3 games. So the last 3 years, he has not even come 1 game within playing a full season. And this is his style of play. I have no clue how this happened, but it's kind of irrelevant. Bottom line, you can make the excuses. We can use the Jimmy one. We all agree there. There are some other ones that, who knows, maybe if he avoids contact. The simple facts are, this guy is not on the field consistently. And we talked about Travis Kelce a lot, like comparing the two. Like, remember we went through Travis Kelce's game log? It's like boom, 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 boom. The fucking guy never misses a game. Like, I think there are 3 guys that are, and you could say Mark Andrews too, but let's just keep the 3 guys. George, Kelce, obviously Kelce's the top dog, George, and then Waller. Well, one knock on Waller, he's been injured a bunch. Like, you got to be, like, part of the reason star players become star players. Like, every time I turn on the TV, Aaron Donald's playing in the game. Every time I turn on the TV, whoever, Micah Parsons, whoever the best player is that year, they usually play every single week. And when George plays, he impacts the game. But if he's going to have a season where he only plays 12 out of the 17 games, like that does impact this team greatly, like you said, because of his addition in the run game. I would say that's even different than like Kelsey and Waller, who are they're lean on in the passing game, but like those guys, they don't rely on to run the football. Now, obviously, Andy doesn't run the ball, but Josh McDaniels will. And here's the thing with George Kittle. We know Kyle does, right? Because we've always said they basically have 7 offensive linemen. Now, this year, some of the interior guys will have to find out if they can play. But we know Juszczyk and Kittle can operate literally as linemen, right? They're 2 of the best non-linemen. You could argue Kittle and Juszczyk, 2 of the best blockers in the league, non-tackle or guard or center. They'd have to be near top 5. I mean, I'd have to ask a scout, like beside George, who even can block as a tight end. I mean, there are some, but George is the best blocking tight end. And fullbacks don't even exist. So there is no Kyle Juszczyk.
Right.
Now, the one thing I'd say with Juszczyk is for the most part, he's been pretty durable. He's had some freak, like, God damn it, Kyle, get up. But George just, who knows? Maybe he plays this game, but it's already starting.
Well, and that's, I think you just said it. It's already starting. He was second on the team in targets last year, despite missing 3 games. Second on the team. The other thing is, I think we kind of assumed that after last year, that Juwan Jennings' role would grow this year. But I don't know if he's ready for it. I mean, he didn't look great in camp. Now, maybe he's just a gamer. And, some of those big kind of third downs, you need a big target, whatever, where Kittle helps. My thought being maybe Jennings helps relieve a little pressure there, but we'll see. He was really good in big games. Wasn't great in practices that we saw. Was really good in big games, had some drops in 2022. But, somebody's got to – you are
I'm not making any judgments on him until he fucks up in games.
That's fair. I'm just saying, like, he is part of what has to replace Kittle. So if you have to replace Kittle. But you just don't love starting the year with Kittle at less than 100%. And Kittle will try to play, right? Because no one questions his desire.
No one questions any of that stuff. It's, to me, there are some parallels. I'm not saying he's this guy. Gronk's going to the Hall of Fame. But early on in Gronk's career, once he kind of established himself as like an elite player, it was like, God, can this guy stay on the field? No one ever questioned, like, does Gronk want to play football? This is just a black and white thing with George. Like, can he play? What would you put the over-under at game-wise and feel comfortable taking the over on George as of September 7th?
You're saying just like with a percentage chance that he plays on Sunday?
No, I'm just saying on the entire season. If I gave you, would you feel good at taking the over at 13.5?
Well, I would have felt better about it 3 hours, before I found out he missed practice with a groin injury today. But yeah, I mean, that feels like the number, because what did you say? He's basically missed
3 games last year.
On average, he's missing 3 games a year.
Yeah.
So that would be the number. I mean, it also shines a light. At some point, are they going to need another to try and find? And I know what you could say is like, well, good luck if you keep searching for another George Kittle. You're going to spend a lot of time looking for another George Kittle. They have not. We see some teams like Bill tried to do it in free agency, try to find a complement tight end for their really good tight end, and they've tried
to sign what's the dude's name from Stanford that Kyle knew, Austin Hooper. Remember a couple years ago?
Yeah, like that would have been. I mean, Ross Dwelly actually often like is able to fulfill his role for them, but they have a lot of tight ends on the roster. They just haven't really gotten close to finding like, I'm not going to even say a 1B, but just a true number 2 kind of complement.
Well, like last year, the Cardinals traded for Zach Ertz and then they re-signed him in free agency. Like that type, like more of a true pass guy.
Like Ertz, I think was Ertz kind of with the Niners pretend like.
Well, I think there was some interest.
Yeah. On the stream comment,
I think he got like $8 million.
Jason Poe to tight end.
Out of post.
Gronk is available, John.
I was thinking like Ertz didn't get that much money. He did sign a 3-year, $30 million deal with $17 million guaranteed.
And what's George's total guarantee? So it's basically half of George's. A little more.
Was that his old contract? No, he signed.
Jordan Reed, Darren on the stream. Jordan Reed for a minute was actually perfect. Yeah,
I think it's fair to say that's kind of what they need, right?
Yep.
But with George out, they also need George.
Right. So that's one of the big.
Can Trent just play 2 positions at one time?
Kind of already does.
Yeah. McGlinchey, I'll help you out too. Let me reach over there.
I think this is the biggest is this the biggest wait and see injury news of week 1 of the NFL now that we know Zach Wilson's out for 4 weeks?
Wait, Zach Wilson's out for 4 weeks?
But he's not on IR because they're going to practice him.
But they said, like, don't get ready?
Yeah. Yes, Gronk's a Hall of Famer. Is Gronk a Hall of Famer? Gronk? You trying to find something?
No, I meant to do the Hall of Famer. Like, to me, he is. Right?
Yeah, no brainer. It's a no-brainer.
So no Zach Wilson all month? I missed that one.
Yeah. I think that was today. Which sucks for the Jets is that
Have you seen their schedule?
Their schedule is very hard. I would pull up their schedule because I thought, God, could Joe Flacco go 2-2, blah, blah, blah. Their schedule is – I thought they sucked last year. How did they end up with this schedule?
I don't know. Happens.
Well,
part of it is like the divisions that you match.
It's their division, right? Isn't it Ravens, Bengals, Steelers, and somebody else?
Yeah, so, I mean, obviously they must play the AFC North, which is not going to be easy. And I don't know who their NFC division is, but yeah, they're screwed.
Who was their other game, just for people who are wondering how good their schedule is? Ravens today. Oh, Browns, Bengals, Steelers.
So
Dolphins, Dolphins, Packers, Broncos, Pats, Bills.
You better beat Jacoby Brissett.
I mean, there's not a game right now. Probably they play the Bears later. They play the Lions and the Jags later, and the Seahawks. Their schedule is tough.
Yeah, they're in trouble.
Their schedule is tough. Max says better to spend an early pick on a tight end in next year's draft. Michael Mayer, for example. Is that Iowa's tight end? Where's Michael Mayer?
Michael Mayer. He is
Notre Dame's guy.
Guess what, guys? He'll be long gone. Get ready for Michael Mayer and the kid from Napa that is at Georgia. I think both those guys, top 15 picks. The dude at Georgia, I think Bowser or whatever. I mean,
Bowser, yeah.
You tell me that guy goes like 4. I mean, you see that fucking guy? He looks like Vernon. He's like, what are we doing? What? This guy played at Napa? What was this guy like in high school?
One of the Oregon corners tried to tackle him, and it was just like,
that guy is a monster.
So that was the first thing that Kyle Shanahan talked today about. One of the other things he talked about was the Niners. The Niners have named their captains, John. And Kyle could have named 7 or 8 or 9, but he didn't. He went with the player vote, and he went with 6. The Niners captains are Trent Williams, Fred Warner, Jimmy Ward, Eric Armstead, Nick Bosa, and George Kittle. Somebody said, what about Trey? And he said, oh, he was 7th. What about Debo? Oh, he was 8th. So the Niners quarterback, I saw somebody in the chat said earlier, 2 quarterbacks in the quarterback room and 0 captains. Trey, not a captain, so does it matter? A. B, I think you can kind of understand it when you read the names of guys. Like, you don't just get to be ahead of Kittle, Bosa, Armstead, Ward, Fred Warner, or Trent Williams because you're the quarterback and people like you, right? Those guys have earned it on the field, which clearly Trey has not yet. You would love for your quarterback to have earned it somehow, some way, but I don't. To me, it's not a killer when you look at who the 6 guys are.
To me, separate of the guys, I'm with you. They have an elite crop of guys that are captains. He has not earned to be a captain. I mean, what fucking world would Trey Lance beside like the guys liking him? And to me, part of being a captain is more than being liked. Like, I think of the Patriots, it was like McCourty, Brady, Jules, Slater. Yeah, like, you win on the field. When I think the Eagles, Kelsey. When I think of the Chiefs, Kelsey, Mahomes, like, you got to earn your stripes on the field. It's more than like, he's doing the right things. I watched Dan Campbell. I think I was an episode late, so not the one where he cut everyone, but the one kind of leading up to the cuts. And he said there are 2 type of guys on this team. And the first type of guys, he's like, guys that are doing everything right, on time. We love you as coaches. We're just not sure if you're good enough. And then the other crop of dudes was like, the dudes, we know you got talent, but we don't like you that much. We question all your bullshit. But it's like, it's hard to pick between those 2 guys.
Yeah.
And to me, Trey, given that, you know, we all think he's talented, but really all he hangs his hat on, like, he's in early. He's being a good teammate. He's working really hard. Like, part of it, you got to double that. You also got to be good on the field. All those guys. Did you list a non-Pro Bowler? I mean, Trent's going to the Hall of Fame. George was, by like year 3, considered the best tight end in football. Aaron Rodgers went up to Fred Warner and said he thought he was the best middle linebacker in football 2 years ago. Jimmy is a polarizing player in the sense of, like, is the league a little lower on him than the 49ers? But here's what we know. He's like the heart and soul of the team, Jimmy Ward. You know, he like cracked the top 100. I think he did this year. Not that that fucking matters, but my point is that like Jimmy Ward is like what he means to the 49ers is well established. I mean, they literally put Trey Lance's locker next to him, right? So I don't like, to me, Trey Lance, I think the bigger question is why isn't Debo a captain more than Trey Lance? If you give a rookie a captaincy, like let's face it, it's a little fake. Like
he's not a rookie, but I agree.
Yeah, it's a little different because the guys know him. Like to me, the bigger question is like Debo's not a lock, and you and I, let's face it. And this is where the kind of liberal football coach in me, like Debo's not the greatest practice player. Where the other guys like Fred takes it very seriously. Jimmy Ward takes it very seriously. Trent, he's just so fucking good. If you don't vote for him, you're an idiot. George takes it very seriously. Bosa takes it very seriously. You watch Debo, I can see some guys like we need him to win, but
right,
that's part of football, right?
But also you can part of it is like if you build a team that has enough guys that you can depend on, you can afford for Debo Samuel to not be one of your captains, right? Because even if he's not like one of the leaders, he's also not over here just being a complete distraction. Because you can't, like the locker room won't allow you to.
But also if you ask like Brunskill or Jawan Jennings or Alshire, like, hey, do you want Debo on the field when you guys play Denver at Denver? Like,
right.
What do you think they're going to? And that's
also, do you think Debo will make it to the field when you guys play those games? Right? Yes. Yeah. Yes is the answer.
So it's like I actually think that would be the bigger thing than Trey, because I think on his most basic level, you said it, he just hasn't earned it. I'd even go as far as he doesn't deserve it. And there's nothing wrong with not deserving it right away. Like I'd argue if in Jacksonville, I'm sure Trevor's a captain. Like, does he deserve it? Probably not yet. You better be voting him. I mean, fuck, but they have no one else.
Yeah.
Some guys, to me, like it feels very forced that the quarterback always gets it. And most of the time it's very true. Like the quarterback, like Brady or Rodgers or Mahomes or whatever. But like, do you just automatically get it just because you're the quarterback? I remember Russillo did a rant.
In college, you kind of do, right?
As the starter.
Yeah. Because in college, you do, like, there are some basic responsibilities for the quarterback, right? The coach isn't allowed to talk to you guys. The only guy you can talk to is the strength and conditioning coach, basically, for like 2 months. So you're supposed to organize all these throwing days and run the offense and blah, blah, blah. And everybody, there are like some 6-year vets, but there's no Trent Williams in college football.
Yeah.
The old guys have been there 3 years.
For sure.
So it's easier to just step in as like a transfer quarterback and take over. Different in the NFL.
For sure. I don't even look at it one iota as being weird him. I look at it a little different with Debo, though having experienced it, I get it. I mean, as saying experience practice, like I get it. Like Jimmy Ward might not check Debo number one.
Team Ham, we don't give out captaincies. It's just WDs, John, War Daddies.
Yeah, and to me, I'd even argue
he's a War Daddy.
I'd argue 6 feels like a lot. I mean, Jim Tom Sula is the all-time joke when he named 75 captains. Maybe I'm old school. I like about 2.
Yeah, but who do you leave out then? I think is part of it, right? Like
I would like Trent and Armstead and Fred.
To me, what you do if you're Kyle, because it's a player vote, is you just you look at where the break in all the votes are, right? So if those 6 guys got kind of similar, my guess is there was a big gap between all the votes those guys got and then the next group, right?
I agree. So
kind of like when you look at like Alabama, Georgia, they get a bunch of votes at the top, and then there's like clearly a gap between number 2 and number 3.
I would imagine you're right. I just wonder, like, because the problem would be like, hey, name 2 captains on defense, and you went like Jimmy Ward and Eric Armstead. Well, it's like, well, Fred, like a lot of people did view him as a captain. People like him. You feel like, and he's kind of the heart and soul of your defense because he's a middle linebacker. He's literally calling the defense, and people do view him that way. If you just only have 2 aside, are you kind of?
If you go to a practice, it's pretty clear.
Out of those 3, if I tell you Jimmy Ward, Fred Warner, Eric Armstead, it's like you can't really not name one of those 3 a captain, right?
Yeah.
To me, offense would be a little easier. I would just go like George and Trent, which I guess is what they did. Is Bosa captain?
Yeah, Bosa's a captain, but there's only 2 guys from the offense. George and Trent. Like
who else are you voting for?
Yeah, I mean, you hope that like maybe Ayuk is in the mix next year, whatever. We'll see, but it's fine.
The Juszczyk literally tells everyone to line up. I mean, you could have voted him.
He only runs the offense, but that was with Jimmy.
Didn't you say at practice? Remember, you saw him tell Trey to get in the shotgun?
Yeah. It was actually Kawakami that saw it first, and I was like, "What just happened?" And he kind of broke it down for me. I was like, oh, "Okay." And then I went back and found the play last year when he told Ayuk that he wasn't in motion; he needed to go in motion. So
you got fullbacks just getting no love, man.
I was talking to our guy Justin Wilcox, John, the Cal coach. Larry Fitzgerald came and talked to Cal football, and he only talked to 3 teams. He talked to Notre Dame, he talked to Alabama, and he talked to Cal. And he said he ran into him. A mutual friend introduced him in like Idaho, and Larry, they talked for like 20 minutes, and Larry's like, "Hey, here's my number. Call my assistant. I'd love to, I'll be happy to come talk to your team." So Justin's like, "Yeah, whatever." 5 days go by. He calls. He expects them to be like, "Yeah, Larry's booked. He was just being nice, whatever." The assistant's like, "We've been waiting for your call." He was like, "Well, what's the fee?" They're like, "Oh, no fee. Larry's happy to just talk to you guys." Because Justin's like, "I'm happy to pay people." They're like, "Just book his flight and he'll be there." So he said he did some research on Larry. Maybe we've talked about this stat before. Larry Fitzgerald, one stat that we know maybe, and one stat nobody knows. Larry, more career tackles than drops.
Someone forwarded me that the other day.
Yeah. All right. The other one was in 17 years of NFL football, Larry Fitzgerald, you know how many OTAs practices he missed? 3. 2 for the birth of a child and 1 for an illness. How about that stat?
What is the more incredible stat?
I mean, I got to think, well, now the practice thing is
not even comparable now. I would imagine, though, like pre-2015-ish, a lot of high-level players didn't miss that many OTAs.
Yeah.
I do think
17-year career.
If you play 17 years, guy, as a wide receiver and have more tackles than drops, and you're a full-time starter the entire time, that's fucking what?
Wilcox's quote was, "It's the highest ratio of achievement to humility in a human being I've ever witnessed." Because he said they like one of their GAs will do like a presentation before the meeting. He said Larry was locked in, asking questions. Like he said, it was just incredible.
Wait, you're saying Larry showed up to like the team meeting before he was even going to talk?
Larry showed up, and there's just like a few things happen, like every day, like maybe Justin talks to the team for 2 minutes. Then like one of the GAs does like a 4-minute presentation on whatever red zone offense. Or
Larry didn't just walk in when he was talking.
No, it was not one of those. And then Larry was engaged. He said it was just incredible. Larry Fitzgerald, all-time guy. So
I'd say I forget whose quote this was.
Kyler Murray ran him into retirement.
High-level people do high-level shit.
Yeah. What is that quote?
Might just be like,
well, that's are you taking some of what Kanye said on date when he was with Chappelle?
Yeah, probably.
Because I'm dope and I do dope shit.
Do most? I've always assumed like when you see Saban has like SEAL Team 6 captain, then he'll have like Ryan Leaf, then he'll have like Peyton Manning, and then he'll have like the 7 guys. And like, God, what up, Kobe, right? And he'll just have like the guys throughout camp, and Alabama will tweet it out. Is he compensating all those guys? I mean,
I think most, yes.
You get like a $10,000 fee to talk.
Whatever your fee is. Absolutely.
So all these programs, when you see these famous people, you would say 99% of the time, if it's not like if Peyton goes back and talks to Tennessee, maybe that's a little different, but
right.
Something like a random I could see Kobe when he spoke to Alabama, maybe Nick didn't have to pay him, right? I bet they became buddies or whatever.
Right.
But for the most part, guys are getting paid.
I mean, they paid for the jet, right?
Yeah, they pay for your travel or whatever, but you think there's also a fee on top of
100%. There's a fee. 99% of the time that you get one of those, which is fine. That's their job. Like that's how they make a living now. So whatever. But yeah.
God, how's Fresno State gonna afford anyone to talk?
It's probably some tax deduction.
That's true.
It's probably some way to get move some money around, get somebody's buddy in.
Honest to God, I would say in any sport. I mean, I didn't know, like, in the peak of his powers, how great of a guy he is. What a quote. What did you say? The greatest? How did Wilcox describe
highest ratio of achievement to humility in any human he's ever met.
He's one of my favorite players of all time. I remember in the peak of his powers to watch play. I mean, he's one of the greatest playoff players of all time. Remember his playoff stats were just stupid. He had a playoff the year that with Kurt Warner where he scored like 8, a ton of touchdowns. He threw one. He threw like a pass against the Eagles in the championship game. That motherfucker was a bad ass.
41 tackles to 29 drops, by the way. I just looked it up. What was it crazy? Didn't he have like a crazy chase down? Did he force a fumble on
That sounds familiar.
I feel like he forced a fumble.
You know where humility came into? When Bruce Arians got the job, obviously he was older by then. Bruce wanted to move him inside. And I mean, it was one of those like Steve Kerr wanted Andre Iguodala to come off the bench.
Yeah.
I think Larry at first was like, are you serious? And then he ended up doing it and kind of extended his career for like 4 or 5 years when he was playing with Carson up through Kyler when he realized like, I'm out. Kyler, good luck against Chiefs.
I did see some quotes from Spagnuolo today. That's like, it might take a little while for our defense to come together. Just kind of saying like they got some changes.
What's weird is my problem is I'm rooting against them, but it's not like I think they suck.
The Cardinals.
Yeah, I'm like, if you tell me it's a tie game in the fourth quarter, it's believable, right? The outcome. If you tell me if you say he has the number one highlight at the end of the day on Sunday, that is a very believable thing. Where he runs around 3 guys on the run, jumps, throws it 40 yards, sweet touchdown to tie the game in the fourth quarter. Like that's on the table. I'm not betting against some scrub here. That's my least favorite part of not liking Kyler Murray is knowing he's sweet. Like Tua, it's like I can talk shit about Tua. I feel pretty good about my lot and land. Or even Baker, like he only has so much talent, even though I kind of think the Panthers are going to win the division.
They might. By the way, I was going to save this for tomorrow real quick. I think, to me, I started making a list of like guys that I'm really looking forward to watching this week. And 2 of them are in the same game. 2 guys that it's just different, new environment. Or Amari Cooper on the Browns.
Forgot about that.
Yep. Christian McCaffrey on the Panthers. I looked it up. Christian McCaffrey hasn't played a game in December since 2019.
Jesus. How many seasons since then?
Well, 2.
Multiple.
Yeah, 2 seasons since then. He hasn't played into December the last 2 years. And obviously he's been hurt in both of those years. So McCaffrey, week 1, good defense. Remember, they were kind of like one of those early in the year last year. People were like, oh, shit. Like, are the Panthers really good on defense? And it turned out.
Started 3-0, remember?
Yeah, I do. Against the Browns week 1, who they played. I got to go back and look, but I think what's his name? Their starting quarterback played
Sam Darnold.
No. The Browns starting quarterback.
Oh, Jacoby
played like several series in their last preseason game. Like they're trying to get their offense just kind of going.
Yeah.
I think he played like 5 or 6 series. So that's a really interesting game for reasons other than Baker. Amari Cooper in. John, before we go any further, let's tell the people about our friends at Indeed. Indeed.com/ham. Indeed.com/ham. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Don't spend hours on multiple job sites looking for candidates with the right skills when you can do it all at Indeed.com/ham.
Find top talent fast with Indeed's powerful hiring tools like Indeed Instant Match, assessments, and virtual interviews. Think about that, guy. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. You don't spend all these hours on multiple job sites looking for candidates with the right skills. All you need is Indeed. You go there, you type in what you need, and it finds the people with those specific skills. You don't want to hire people that don't have the skills you're looking for.
Join over 3 million businesses worldwide using Indeed to hire great talent fast. Indeed knows that you're doing everything that you can for your company, and you cannot afford to overspend on hiring. So visit Indeed.com to start hiring now. Just go to Indeed.com/ham.
Yep.
Indeed.com/ham. Terms and conditions apply. Cost per application pricing not available for everyone. If you need to hire, you need
Indeed.
I was stunned to find out today while reading Matt Barrows in The Athletic that Nick Bosa has improved his diet, John. I thought his diet was already dialed, but apparently he has dialed it in even further. He used to eat Chipotle all day. When the bars closed, here's a little sneaky line that like kind of gets glossed over. When the bars closed in the wee hours, he and his crew hit McDonald's. His go-to order, a McGriddle. 550 calories of sausage, egg, American cheese, and gooey goodness. Here's what I would like to interject into that little sentence. I love that we're like, Chipotle, bad. Went to the bars till 2 a.m. Who knows what happened there? Then he went to McDonald's and had a McGriddle. Well, what about the 17 Tito's and vodka soda? Actually, that would be okay.
Well, see, that's very healthy. You know, is he drinking IPAs? Is he drinking Jack and sodas? Like, what is he consuming? If he's drinking Tito's and sodas, one, this is not paid for. This line, you don't get hungover. I don't. But they're check the caloric intake. Not bad for you.
I just love that we just blame the McGriddle instead of the never had like I don't know.
Beer bonged a 24-ounce fucking can of IPA.
So anyway, maybe he's on Troy Aikman's new beer, but now he can reach 10 inches past his toes. That's how flexible he is. When he sits on the ground with his legs straight out, he can reach 10 inches past his toes. John,
that is insane.
Most people can't reach 10 inches to their, like, within 10 inches of their
That's
toes.
crazy.
So here is this guy, and I think the thing that really stood out is how dialed in he is on exactly how quick he is. His split times, he says, are as good as they've ever been.
Yeah, he looks, I mean, you and I have been beating this drum for a while. We haven't been alone, but I'm just saying on this podcast and on this YouTube channel, subscribe, smash that like button, that he looks like a man on a mission. And we've seen it before years ago with Khalil Mack when he was the defensive player of the year, and there are similar vibes out of here. Here's the one thing I will take away from reading this article and Albert Breer talking to the Bosas, being an Ohio State guy. And I underestimated this years ago in Joey. And maybe I just, because they're brothers, one thing Joey's mentioned is like Nick's a little more of a focused guy than Joey. And I actually think in a weird way, Nick has like raised Joey's game. We say this all the time in scouting. And it's one of the questions that it's just you hammer home and you get asked about in draft meetings by your bosses about how much guys like football. I mean, truly means to them. And, when you get to talk to like Justin Wilcox, to a coach, football is everything, right? Like Justin is known as just like very serious family and football. Like it's just Kyle, just like his family and football. Like it's on the pie chart. Even if your family is a massive part, football is the other massive part. There is no other pies, like that. That's just the only part of the pie. Football, family. Some people add God in there, but like with coaches, they're all the same. It means everything to them. There's a small percentage of players, and I think the majority of the great ones, they have a similar pie chart. Like football means everything to them when they're playing. Like Drew Brees, Peyton Manning, Aaron Donald. I feel like Nick Bosa is in that category, and I think Joey, I think the Chargers thought Joey was a lot like that when they drafted him 3rd overall, and you and me were going over the draft before. It was a little shocking in a draft with Jalen Ramsey, Ronnie Stanley at the time before the Bong picture came out right on the day of the draft. Laramie Tunsil was viewed as like a top 5 pick, and Joey went 3. And one thing that we all agree on the Bosa brothers is they were born to beat the shit out of everyone on an NFL football field. And you don't maintain that without being really good. An underrated part of like this draft, Joey's been in the league 3 more years than like his career is a little longer than even sometimes I realize. Like 2016, we're going into 2022. Like he's been in the league a little while.
Yeah.
And I just think these guys are kind of a scout stream. Obviously, Ohio State blue chippers. I'm not acting like it was hard to figure out in terms of their talent. But to me, what makes them great players, what makes to me Nick is more talented than Joey. And that's saying something because Joey's like a consistent potential Pro Bowler and a guy, battling for an all-pro spot, is that how dialed these guys are on like getting ready for the season. You said that quote about the gym being huge, just 2 of them. Obviously, it's a little unique, right? Like their dad being an NFL guy, being a pass rusher. It's like the family kind of job. But I don't think you can fake, and anyone listening to this that, is a Warriors fan, obviously a lot of them you in Northern California, is like how much Steph and Clay love basketball. And even, Draymond now podcast or whatever, but clearly he loves basketball. Like basketball means a lot to him. Like Draymond tweets about basketball when he's not like he watches it. And in football is a little different. Like you don't have to watch like football all the time, but like they're always preparing for football. Like Clay is always a guy like, where's Clay? He's probably just shooting her on his boat. Like it's not complicated. He's not doing 17. He doesn't have what's Steph doing. He's either playing basketball or playing golf. And I think the Bosas are in the weight room or playing football. And especially Nick, isn't that what you feel pretty good about giving $120 million to? Because if he wins the defensive player of the year, like we knew his number was going to be big. It could be historic.
Yeah, it could. And as long as he's healthy, and I think part of the point of the Barrow story on The Athletic, which is really good, is like, Nick Bosa would have been fine just doing what he was always doing. doing what he was always doing would be a Pro Bowl level player, right?
He could have had a 10-year career, on the Niners and made 5-6 Pro Bowls, and you would have been great.
Probably a like borderline all pro player every year, just kind of sticking to the script.
What last year looked like?
Yeah, I mean, he's better than last year. And one of the quotes in here was McGlinchey was like their first rep against each other. He realized, yep, Nick's faster. And the numbers back it up. This is what Barrows wrote. Before he was drafted, Bosa's 10-yard split was 1.55 seconds, a good time for a 266-pounder like him. This offseason, his splits were routinely below 1.55. And I love this quote. This is what an incredible quote. I don't think he's not trying to be funny here, right? My starts, if I'm not under 1.5 on my 10-yard starts, then my nervous system probably isn't on that day, said Bosa. I'm in the 1.4 range every time. So he talks about it like it's science, right? His body is science to him.
He's talking about football like Bryson DeChambeau talks about golf.
It really is. He's talking about his nervous system.
Well, that's why in the MMQB earlier this week, when Breer talked to Joey was kind of giving Nick a lot of credit for helping him raise his game. And basically, Joey was like, I'm a meathead. And I think that's always kind of been the knock. Joey, to me, one knock on him coming out of college, Zeke too. Ironically, they went 3-4, but they were so fucking good. They were the two guys that like beat the shit out of Alabama. Yeah, was they partied a lot. Now, it mentions here Nick's parties, but I'm talking party. Like party that makes you a little as a front
you
office.
mean like, hey, you party?
I'm talking like there were just some red flags about their party.
I follow.
I think Nick is a little more dialed than Joey was at the same stage. And I give Joey credit. He's been in LA now for a long time and no issues, right? He's no trouble. Zeke's the only guy that had any trouble of the Ohio State guys, of the elite crew. So, I mean, I think Nick might be a little different than his brother in terms of cerebral. Doesn't it feel that way? And I think part of it is Joey could get by a little bit more. This is like nerdy football. He's a more powerful guy. Nick's really, his game, his success, and his dominance is predicated more on speed. And look what he's talking about here. Like, yeah, he kind of knows. I think speed guys sometimes think about shit a little bit differently than like lift, shove. It just is what it is.
Yeah. And there's different types of, right? You can be a savant at one thing and not be able to, pass a written test on another subject. And I'm
not saying Nick is, he's a Harvard grad here.
No, but he is a savant when it comes to the thing that matters most to him. And I think there is a freedom in having a very narrow focus on a goal. When your dad played in the league, when your older brother accomplished it as quickly as he did, going to Ohio State and going to the league, I think it's like one advantage I think that sons or brothers of pro athletes have when they're trying to become a pro, or siblings, whatever, could be if your mom was a pro athlete, is that I think it's really easy to envision yourself achieving that dream and believing that all the work you put in is going to lead to you achieving that dream, because you see it right there. Like, yeah, my dad's a pro. Why can't I be a pro? Right. I think having that example in front of you is something that can really focus you, because when you believe that you're very close to accomplishing something, I think you work really hard at it. And clearly this guy has accomplished a lot and clearly believes he's very close to accomplishing more. And the Niners are the beneficiaries. But it feels like he's saying, I've reached a new level, which if he's reached a new level, what does that actually translate to on the field? Is that 20 sacks? Like, what does that really mean?
I think so. I think defensive player of the year. He'd be my pick for defensive player of the year.
Let's go to DraftKings.
I think two guy that it just kind of hit me. One of the most remarkable. Now, they were both, obviously, Peyton's in the Hall of Fame. Eli probably ended up getting in. Two brothers that were both the number one picks and then became Hall of Famers and Super Bowl champions, have 4 Super Bowls. And Eli's, you could argue, are like more memorable than Peyton's in a weird way. Would you agree with there?
Yes. More, because Peyton was a favorite for so long. Eli was not.
And Peyton was a favorite in both his Super Bowl victories. Like, Eli was a fucking 14-point underdog to the undefeated team. That's an incredible accomplishment. That has a decent chance to never be duplicated, right? Two brothers, number one picks, Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
Their dad played in the league. These two, do you think we'll ever see two brothers be the first position players ever drafted in their draft? Like, obviously non-quarterback.
Oh,
but like Both one went 2, one went 3, and the only reason they didn't go 1, specifically Nick, was because quarterbacks went ahead of them. So if it wasn't for 3 quarterbacks, these guys would have been the first player pick. That's pretty incredible when you think about it.
That
right?
is. That's really incredible. Yeah. I mean,
it never really hit me till now, but once you look at Joey's draft, that it was Wentz and Goff, or Goff and Wentz, whatever. And I remember Steve Keim said when they drafted Kyler, because remember they got a lot of heat, like, you lied to us. It's like, yeah, they lied to you guys. And he said the one thing that like I lost sleep over was like, we're passing on Nick Bosa, right? I mean, it's looking back, I think Nick in the scouting community was, viewed as pretty blue chip, right? I mean, those don't happen that often. Like, who was the first player drafted? And who was drafted? Aiden Hutchinson,
the D line, the Georgia guy.
Like, I wouldn't like Myles Garrett. I think if you just got everyone's take throughout the league, they'd be like, that's a blue chip prospect. I think Nick was in that level.
The irony is that the Watts both have Defensive Player of the Year's awards, and JJ went 11th and TJ went 30th.
Yeah.
Are the Bosas each going to win a Defensive Player of the Year award? It's going to be tough, right?
You'd say of the 4, TJ's is the most incredible career because, like most of the league, they show you what they thought of him, right? People did not view him.
That was the next year. That was the 17 draft.
Yeah. TJ went 30th?
TJ went 30. I mean, Myles Garrett went 1. Taco Charlton went 2 spots ahead of TJ Watt.
Yeah, that's a miss by old Jerry.
Takaris McKinley. Tack McKinley, remember him? Got off the plane with like the grandma. He went 26. Charles Harris from Missouri, pass rusher, went to the Dolphins at 22.
Whiff.
Jonathan Allen went to Washington at 17.
Good player. Good player.
Derek Barnett went to the Eagles at 14.
Still on the team.
Hassan Reddick went to the Cardinals. Linebacker went to the Cardinals. Solomon Thomas went 3. John, I don't know if you're familiar with that draft. He went 3.
If the Niners could redo, would they take TJ Watt there?
All right. If you could redo that draft, would you take, your options are TJ Watt, not Jamal Adams. Yeah, non-quarterback. Would you go McCaffrey, Marshawn Lattimore, Marlon Humphrey, Jonathan Allen, TJ Watt, Buda Baker? I'll go. Oh, Buda was second rounder, so forget Buda. So TJ Watt, Tre'Davious White. There were a lot of, actually, it was a good corner draft. Lattimore, Humphrey, and White all went in the first round.
Listen, I'm a sucker for the trenches, guy. As you can see, former guard Davis I03. I would lean. I'd go TJ clearly 1. I think Jonathan. I think you could never go wrong. Remember Jonathan Allen last year kicking his teammates' ass on the sideline for looking at him weird.
Yeah,
I'd go D line. I'd go TJ, Jonathan Allen. I'd go D line.
I mean, Lattimore would be a pretty good pick.
I just like I look at corners a little bit like people used to look at receivers, replaceable.
I understand.
Lattimore, yeah. I mean, I like cover corners. He not Revis. Remember Sherman yelling at Skip Bayless back in the day about Revis? It was like Sherman's like third year going on First Take or Cold Pizza and just those two screaming at each other.
Austin on the stream says, or would you go Kittle?
I would take TJ Watt over Kittle.
Who else? Tariq Cohen. Anyway, interesting draft.
Isn't it crazy how just fast you look back and you went? Solomon Thomas went 3, and that guy went 30th. How does that happen?
To me, another example of that is the draft we were just talking about, the 16 draft, where Goff, Wentz, Bosa, Zeke, Ramsey, Ronnie Stanley, DeForest Buckner, they've all been to Pro Bowls. And like you said, Laramie Tunsil went 13. Let's slot him in at 8 instead of Jack Conklin, maybe. And you would have 8 straight picks that went to Pro Bowls. And yet Goff's on another team. Wentz been on 2 teams since. Zeke, on the same team because his contract is immovable. Ronnie Stanley, same team. DeForest, new team. What does that mean? 3 of the top 7, even though they all made Pro Bowls, are already on different teams. Jalen's been on 2 teams.
In fairness to the former Cal Bear, he did go to multiple Pro Bowls.
Right. I'm just saying, even that, even when you hit the pick, that can sometimes it only lasts for like 4 or 5 years. And for a variety of reasons, like Jalen Ramsey's not on the Jags for a different reason than Carson Wentz isn't on the.
Can you scroll up so I could just? I like the 20s. That's always a little sweet spot. It's always a cool player and some shitty players.
Joshua Garnett went 28. DJ went 29.
Dotson sucks. Paxton Lynch sucked. Kenny Clark. I mean, look. Kenny Clark went 27. There's always a pick like in the late 20s.
But
It's
Kenny
just a complete ass kicker.
He was a red flag guy, wasn't he?
I don't remember the knock on him.
Or was his red flag not until he left Green Bay and Seattle signed him?
No. You're thinking Frank Clark.
Oh.
This is UCLA Kenny Clark.
Thank you.
Frank Clark red flag, yeah. Seattle got crushed for that, remember?
Oh, that was just a draft pick. Yep. Thanks.
Yeah.
Ryan Kelly, Indy, Keanu Neal. Yeah.
Draft got pretty shitty there in the teens.
Laramie Tunsil, man. Miami got lucky. Carl Joseph went 14.
Kandiche, bad pick there, Kime.
Yikes. Niners had him in for a minute. Even we identified that one as maybe a pass. Brian Kelly. Yeah.
Is Aaron Judge going to hit 70 home runs? What's his pace right now?
What's he at? 53?
55.
55? They play a doubleheader today. Did he go deep today?
Do you think it's a big deal if he breaks the Yankee record?
He did. He hit 50. I do think it's a big deal.
Yeah, he hit 55 today.
Yeah, Roger Maris's record. So he's 6 away from Maris. And they play another game today as we record this or as we're live on YouTube. I think it's a big deal. Don't you?
Well, this threw me off. Hits 55th home run, sets franchise single record for right-handed hitters.
Oh.
That's kind of like throwing your nuts on the table. Like, yeah, we got some guys that hit home runs here.
Do you have the Yankees record in front of you?
No.
Because I'll tell you the other one that kind of interests me is, Babe did it in less games than Roger Maris did it. That was one of the criticisms of Maris is that he got 162 and Babe got 154. Babe hit 60. And Babe also hit 59. So Judge is at 55. Yeah, I'm not sure what the pace is, but I think
he's got 27 games left. So that's like a month of baseball, right? So what can you hit in a month? 15? That's a lot, I guess. 10. Yeah. Like he get to 65.
Yeah. He's just got to get to 62. 65 would he's got to get to 67 to break Sosa's record. That was the thing about that year. It's like Mark hit 70, Sosa hit 66.
I know, it's insane.
And finished in second place.
Someone sent me a good tweet about
Sosa hit more home runs than Roger Maris 3 times. He actually hit more home runs than Maris, more times than McGuire hit more home runs than Maris. McGuire did it twice. Sammy did 63, 64, 66.
Is Aaron Judge having the greatest season in the history of Fresno State athletics for a pro?
Just individual statistical season?
For a guy that went to Fresno State, going to the pros.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, off the top of your head, you'd go, Dilfer went to a Super Bowl, but it wasn't individually amazing. Terry Pendleton was a Bulldog. He had some pretty good years. I don't think did Terry Pendleton. I don't think he won an MVP. Yeah, he did. Terry Pendleton won an MVP in 91. So that'd be a pretty good year. Now he hit, it's hard.
Paul George has been first team NBA, all NBA before,
which is pretty freaking good. But an MVP, but like this level of MVP season, I would say would
remember there was a moment that year for Paul George too. I think he got hurt at the end. He was like, could Paul George win the MVP? I think Russell got hurt is when he was on OKC. I would take this Aaron Judge season, but his career has been pretty remarkable. I think given what people thought about him, right?
Devontae's best year?
I would say Aaron Judge's season this year is more impressive than anything. Now Devontae could get there, right?
Yeah.
Super Bowl team wins, all first team All Pro. Yeah, I'd say Devontae. Who's had a better pro career, Devontae Adams or Paul George?
Feels like Paul. Oh, Paul's done it longer, right?
Paul's a couple years older. Yeah.
Paul's just been at the top. It took Paul a year to kind of get going. He didn't hit the ground running as a rookie. He got benched for like a month. Jim O'Brien was the Pacers coach. They benched him. They didn't take him on a road trip his rookie year. I remember they left him home.
I actually said that pretty confidently that Aaron Judge, and then you realize like Fresno State, these like Devontae and Paul specifically, like the last decade, produced 2 pretty elite players in basketball and football.
I mean, They've been 2 of the best players in their sport, right? All NBA's 5 guys, right?
Well, Devontae's first team All Pro twice last 2 years.
Yeah. Now, again, I mean, I do think if you hit 55 home runs, I would put it. I'm telling you, Terry Pendleton, John, 91 MVP, 92 finished second for the MVP. led the league in hits. Again, just the numbers are not going to be, it was 22 and 21 homers, but
Don't sleep on the dogs.
Lane Kiffin. Somebody mentioned Lane Kiffin.
I saw someone put like their least 5 most disappointing teams week 1. It was like Oregon won, but like Ole Miss was like 2 or 3, and I was like, didn't Ole Miss just win?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I didn't watch the game. I looked at the box score. It wasn't like an explosive box score. Which Jeff Weaver, did he ever put together like he's a Bulldog?
Long Beach State guy was way better.
Jared.
Yeah.
I don't
love Low Neal, but I don't think he's getting in the Hall of Fame.
You don't think we're going to full back in?
Use Juice.
Well, Juice has Mayoko. That's Juice has Mayoko.
You're right. I mean, is there a chance like that's, like Juice plays another 5 years, another 10 years? What's Matt? You think 50? Like when Matt's getting like near in retirement, like one of his last stands is to get Kyle Juszczyk in the Hall of Fame. You could see that. And he I retire. And I'm like, and then he gets in one time as a contributor, as like one of the great football media guys.
Yeah, the speech he put on and the things Mayoko said in the room, nobody could turn a room like Mayoko.
I do think
on the ham pod.
I'm not trying to oversay this just because we like the guy, but he does feel like one of his era, and he's got another decade plus going, I'm sure, unless he wants to retire or do something else. He'll go down as one of the most important, media guys of his era, non-national.
I agree.
If Matt needs our vote, tell the big guy whatever.
Start the campaign now.
What if Matt's the guy that starts knocking? St. Mary's hat
takes over for David Baker.
That's an open job. Who's taking over?
Good question. I don't know, because it's got to be probably somebody who's not too rich, former player who's not too rich. David Baker was a former player, right? Is he in the Hall of Fame?
I don't think so. No. You can't have like Ray Lewis pounding on the door. Like, you made it.
I mean, that'd be a good one.
I do think you could go on a rotating cast of like dudes that don't have much going on that are like super famous.
But what's cool about David Baker is he is most famous for that, right?
Being massive and knocking on the door.
And being humongous. Yeah, like he can hug all these guys and he's bigger than all of them. So.
What's your favorite David Baker knock?
Oh, the Bryant Young one, John?
I have one that stands out. I'm only saying that because it came to my head. He went with Mark Davis.
Top 5 knocks.
Down to Flores' house in like Palm Springs. He like lives on one of the golf courses down there, and like Mark's right by his side, and David knocked at his house. Usually it's always at the hotel,
Yeah.
But they went to Flores' house. It's just the two of them with a guy camera, Mark and him. I don't know why I found.
What was Flores' reaction?
His wife came, and then he had to. She calls for him. I think if I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure his wife answers the door. Again, I mean, I don't think our generation knocks as many times. Like when we were growing up, people come to your door. It's just not. It's much more normal. Like you see the Flores, his wife, and him. It's a normal react. They've been opening their front door to people forever. You knock on my door, it's like, we got an intruder.
Let me check. Let me check the video doorbell. Everybody down.
When I was a kid, like every 20 minutes, like, I got the door. No, I got the door. It was like, who's even coming?
People would call. You wouldn't know who was calling.
Oh my God. It was just relentless.
I thought, I think it's better that way. A little surprise in your daily life, but
you could argue in this newer generation that the door knock could end.
Well, the drop in is like out completely, right?
Oh, the unannounced drop in, just coming to kick it. What are you doing? Can I just come in and like, you want? Oh yeah, we got some extra food. You want to come kick it? Like our generation never does that shit.
It's an insane thing to do.
Yeah, Bill, doors open, side doors wide open. Or just walked in, come in. I used to my friends' houses growing up. Sometimes their garages would be open, and you just come in through the garage, like, oh, hey, Cindy. They're like, oh, John, what's going on? Now you'd immediately go into like fight or flight mode. Who's that?
Grab something from the fridge, right? Open up the fridge yourself. All right. Thursday night, we can talk about. We'll do another pod on Thursday. We can talk. You know who's playing Thursday, John? Is speaking of friends of the show, Khalil Shakir, the punt returner for the Bills, Boise State. Friend of the show.
Made the squad.
5th rounder. I mean, better make the squad. So
I think he plays.
Yeah, he's their starting punt returner.
No shit.
That's what I saw in their depth chart. One little nugget I forgot to drop in earlier. I heard Florio say the Bears Florio thinks the Bears roster sucks because they picked up 6 guys on the waiver wire. He's like, if you're good, you should not be picking up 6 guys on the waiver wire. So that was one other little nugget.
True. The Jets, who sucked last year, I think had 7 guys claimed.
Wow. Upgraded their roster quickly.
And I heard that, like, if you factor in the week and a half before, they had cut, I think, 9 guys who were claimed by other teams. So, like...
So they should be loaded.
Yeah, I mean, how does that make any sense?
Yeah, it just comes down to their...
Do you know what's funny is I almost tweeted out, where was I? I was at the hotel in Nashville, sitting there. It would have been on, like, I don't know. Now, the waiver had already happened, but I was watching NFL Network, and they were doing a rerun Jets-Giants. And it's your classic, like, third quarter, you know, I don't know who the Jets, it's like Anthony Richardson, the former player, and Bob Wischusen, whatever. Joe Douglas in the box, headset on, BS, and just a lot of like, God, Joe, this team, you know, just everything so positive. And then Anthony Richardson said, like, Joe, it looks like, you know, this is a week, you know, this is delayed, or it's already happened. But I didn't know. And he starts saying, like, you're going to have I bet a lot of teams are calling you about some of the defensive and offensive linemen that you're going to cut. And I almost tweeted, like, these home broadcasts in the preseason are just such a circle jerk of BS. Who is going to claim the Jets player? And then later I go to like a walk and I just put in Michael Lombardi's podcast. And that's when I heard that they had 7 players claimed. They weren't kidding. They actually had a roster of people interested in signing guys.
All right. Well, I won't judge you just on your waiver wire. By the way, one correction. I guess Salah said that Zach Wilson could be back week 4. So that's the earliest he could return this week 4.
But that is definitely news. So he is not playing this week. It's not like
not playing this week, not playing next week, not playing against the Bengals. Could play at Pittsburgh. Could be his debut this year.
Flacco.
Salvador on the stream says the Hall of Fame should go with the Jehovah Witness for the knock.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This has an opportunity to do something kind of funny. Not Jehovah Witness, but.
All right, we'll be back on Thursday with some more picks for the weekend, as well as the latest news and notes from around the league. Thanks for hanging with us, everybody.
Peace.